Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. Now, you're going to have some patience with me. This is new to you, it's new to me, and it's going to take me months, not just weeks, but months, to bring some order to disarray here, to decorate the way that I wish to decorate, and to bring the scene to you that I wish to bring to you, while also bearing in mind that now I would like to invite you into my home rather than into a set, if you will. The space we used before was lovely. It was a corner of a room, the only corner that I really had available to dedicate for broadcasting. And a sort of set appeared over time, didn't it, my dears? I don't want to create a set for you. I want to invite you into my home for the broadcast going forward. So it's going to be a little bit more natural in surroundings. It'll take a while for me to get used to, for you to get used to. It'll take a while for me to understand the acoustics of this room. The ceilings are just shy of 4 meters. Very high ceilings here, really, compared to what I'm used to, at least. And so I will have to intuit how to project or not to project and take into account my surroundings and how things feel here. So you're going to have to bear with me, my dears, but most of you, I think, will enjoy the process. By the way, I fully intend to continue serving some glamour and looks as we continue through the broadcasts. I find it great fun going out and finding the different looks and the different assortment of clothes and jewels and sparkles. So all of that will continue. I won't be coming to you as casually as I am today, but being rather exhausted as I am, and as you can appreciate, my dear, I just wanted to drop in and have a very casual little chit-chat with you and a little catch-up. And as we move forward, we can move around this room. There's a lovely window next to me, a large sash window, which I'm fortunate enough here to have wonderful views out of every single window, which has not always been the case in my life, I can tell you. But very fortunate with this place to be surrounded by trees of evergreen, green trees and leaves as I look out the window. Gorgeous in January, wonderful. And so we can watch them change through the seasons, can't we, my dears, from time to time through the large window, which will be very nice indeed. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also considering perhaps taking my camera out with me on little expeditions here and there and bringing you with me, which I know many of you have asked for a long time, but no promises at the moment because I'm not sure how much I will enjoy doing that, but I'm going to see what I can do about it. We might be able to have some different adventures together in that respect. A quick word on the keepsakes, for those of you that saw my last video. That video was actually recorded in October. It was recorded a few months ago because I didn't expect to have such a long gap between my departure and my re-arrival last week, but for reasons beyond my control, which we might discuss in later broadcasts, there was a much longer delay. I was absent for longer than I thought that I would be, and so yes, that I was expecting to bring the keepsakes to you in time for Christmas. This was the whole idea. We've been talking about it. You'd wanted something along those lines, a little token, and it was going to be perfect for Christmas. But as it turned out, it was for New Year. So thank you so much. I'm absolutely overwhelmed, I've got to tell you, by the amount of requests for a keepsake. It really is utterly mind-blowing, very flattering, a little bit scary, because I don't want to disappoint anybody. I've replied to some of you through my assistant, who I shall call my lady-in-waiting, who's been very helpful, helping me with the administration of the keepsakes. None have been posted yet. The first batch will be posted out probably next week. No promises. But for those of you that have emailed and not yet received a reply, please do not take it as rudeness or as anything other than the fact that we have just been absolutely inundated and want to be sure before we ask for payment that we can supply the demand. It's a wonderful problem to have. It really is. But thank you for your patience and for your enthusiasm. It really is very humbling. And when one goes to an effort to create such a thing. It's rewarding to have it received in such a positive way, so thank you very much for that. I am already in love with my new place. I've got to tell you, absolutely in love. Very happy to be here. It is the location of my dreams. Not anybody else's dreams, but my dreams. It's a place I love. And the vibe here is electric. It compares to New York City. Really, it does. The times I've been to Manhattan. And Brooklyn even. It's a buzz with a cool vibe of excitement here, even in January. And it's going to take me a while to get things in order, as I mentioned earlier. I've just chucked a few things behind me, but to be honest with you, I don't know what's going to go where. You know what it's like when you move, my dear. You just try to be as organised as you can by chucking things in holes and areas and bookcases, but nothing is arranged as it will be and as I want it to be. I know some of you will ask about the purple throne, the chair we all know and love. Well, as it happens, I wasn't sure whether I'd bring it with me. So much of my stuff is in storage as it is, local storage. But as for that throne, you know, the doorway into this room is a little narrower than the standard doors of the kingdom. And I'm not sure that it would actually squeeze in here. This sofa is only here because the one that I had originally intended to come here was too large. It didn't fit after spending quite a bit of money getting it couriered here by specialists. It didn't fit. So we have this very pretty one. But as for the throne, where it might have had its time, my dears, we all loved it. I had it made specifically and specially for the broadcast over 3 years ago, didn't I, my loves? It's not an authentic piece of furniture, really. It was made for the broadcast, whereas this is an antique piece that is entirely authentic, I can assure you. But you might fall in love with it over time, just as you did with the purple throne. It's just a case of getting used to the new. I've got new paintings on the way that are larger. I've placed the one behind me that we looked at in a previous tip jar corner. Doesn't it look lovely? Do you remember I wasn't sure whether it was a bit too macabre and dark, but I've grown to really fall in love with it, but it's too small. I did have a mirror up, actually, an overmantel, but that was the one thing that isn't going to work for broadcasting, to have that behind me reflecting light. So I think I found the right painting to go behind me. It'll be a bit too large for you to see most of it, but I'm sure we can mix up the angles. But I've seen a really lovely painting. I've fallen in love with it, but I want to go to the showroom, which is a good hour and a half outside of London, I should think. And I'm going to try and go this week and make an offer. We'll see, but I really do like it. And I think you'll like it. A colourful piece to go behind. And yes, there's just all sorts of accoutrements, my dear, splashed all over the place. And day by day, I'm wading through it. You know what it's like moving home, my dear. It's frustrating, it's exciting, it's extremely stressful. And as I say, I'll probably go into a little bit more detail about it in the future. But the conveyancing processes have been quite an adventure. An expensive adventure, a terrifying, scary expedition that I do not want to repeat for quite some time, although I think I'll be more prepared to do things a different way next time. But it's been quite the journey, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But this is where we are, this is where we've landed. It was me, actually, that painted the walls blue. Yes, you wouldn't think it, would you? River, the DIY queen. Yes, I've been up ladders, painted the whole room blue, and I've decided it's not quite what I like and what I want. Well, that's a lie. I do like it. I love it. You know, I had that Barbara Carlton fantasy. My chief inspiration for home decoration is Camfield Place, and I think will always be Camfield Place. Love Camfield, with the turquoise and the corals, which I wanted to bring some of that here, but I think I will love the blue for a few seasons, not forever. So I've actually got to redecorate the entire place over time, as and when I can afford to do it. The whole thing needs to be redecorated. I got it at a fabulous price because it was in need of a lot of love, should we put it that way. Nothing extreme, it's perfectly palatable, but it needs some love and it needs some refreshments, and also I think I'm the right person for it because I want to restore some of the older features that perhaps weren't as cherished and were even taken out in the past. I see it as my duty as a custodian for the time being to restore some of those features, things like some of the coving that have been removed and ceiling roses, things along those lines. Perhaps I can share with you as we go along in this journey, whether here or on a separate channel. And I'll be asking for your advice as we go along. But yes, the blue behind me, it looks very pleasant, and it is very pleasant. It can be rather dark here under electric light in the evenings, though. It looks fabulous by candlelight. I'm interested to see what it'll look like come spring, come summer. It is a very nice blue, but I was actually going for something a little bit more minty in tone, a little bit more minty. But I didn't quite achieve it, but we will see. We will see. I can experiment, can't I? I might go all rose pink. I want it to be a sexy home, so lots of gold and gilt and lots of antiques, which is always my way, my dear. I like the soul that old objects bring, and paintings and art, as you know, my dear. I love to be surrounded by that. I will never ever live in a new building. I hope, I truly hope, ever again. I haven't for quite some time, but coming through, and I lived in many house shares all over London, as you can appreciate, my dear, with lots of people in lots of districts of London, lots of places, and most of those, of course, were old, but there was once or twice when they were rather new, modern buildings, and it wasn't good for my spirit or my soul at all, my dear, at all. And I can live in any old shoebox in London. I'm not too fussed about the size, so she says, but I do like high ceilings, I like a nice view, and I demand the right location. I will sacrifice a lot to live in the area that I love and that I feel most at home in. And I did sacrifice quite a lot to do that on this occasion. I've been all over the place the last few months since my last official broadcast, around about October, wasn't it? End of October. I've been all over the place. I've been to the north of the country. I've been down in Sussex. I've been in Devon. I've been in Hampshire for a while. I've been round about Norfolk. Yesterday I was in Gloucestershire. Any of you familiar with the Kemble area? I was around Kemble yesterday. And I've also been spending time with family, including my great auntie, who many of you will remember from previous broadcasts where I shared her dementia diagnosis, and we went all through that, which has got progressively worse and worse and worse. You might remember that last year, about a year ago, Christmas time, we did put her in a home after she'd been with my parents, living at my parents' home, well, now for about 6 years, something like that. We put her in a home extremely reluctantly and at great expense, and pulled her straight out again. Mummy pulled her straight out again after 4 or 5 days, because just couldn't bear it. This time she's in for good. I was living with them at the time when we made the decision that this time she had to go. It was, wandering into one's room 5 times throughout the night, every night, 5, 6 times, not understanding when night is day and day is night. I'm hesitating because I'd like to share the nitty-gritty with you, those of you who deal or care for those with dementia, serious dementia, know the practicalities, the realities that come with that diagnosis, the sanitary implications of that. Even though you don't know my great auntie, would never be able to identify her in that respect or anything, I still feel a sense of wanting to protect her privacy and her dignity, but you can imagine the kind of things that one has to do to care for her and help with her care, as it was my privilege to do, and it was also the stuff of life. It was grief, it's immense love, it's the horror of seeing the decay of the mind, the base human emotions and functions, bodily functions, dread, panic, and then eventually we dealt with it, Mummy and I, along with other members of my family, with humour. And I think that's actually where I was able to come in and help because I brought, we had hilarious moments in with the tragedy, the tragi-comedy, hilarious moments together before we made the decision to put her into care and nursing care permanently, and it was horrible. So it's been a mixture of emotions over the last few months for me. A very, very tough time, but as I always say, and sounds so cliched, but it's absolutely true, it is absolutely true to say that in those extremely tough, real moments of life, if you're able to mine for the treasures, you certainly find them. You certainly find them and establish deep, profound bonds with those in your life that you love and care for, and that probably drive you balmy at many times, and you can't bear at other times. Well, you find the love and you find the connections, and you also come away with your character enriched if you just stay aware. So I have had a hellish time in many ways over the last few months, as many of us do in many ways for many type of reasons, but I can certainly say, which I didn't think when I was going through these things, that I am grateful, really, really grateful for those experiences. It doesn't mean that I want to repeat them, and I think I've learned the lessons that I needed to learn, but I'm grateful for them. We do find those treasures in the darkness, the deep dark depths, if we look for them. So without wanting to be too sort of twee about it and too gushy-washy, you know, it's true. So it's worth saying that. Dusk has been falling as I've been recording, and it's rather nice because the window provides all different kinds of light. So I've just tried out the candelabra behind me. It looks quite pretty, doesn't it? I had to do a bit of moving things about so it didn't look like my head was on fire, but I'm quite pleased with that. One of the things I wanted to do here was record in natural light, and in the previous broadcasts I kept things very natural because I've always just recorded on my iPhone. I've experimented with more highfalutin equipment a long time ago, but it's just not me. I like to keep things extremely simple, so I record on an ancient iPhone, or have done up to now, and usually with just one or maybe two lights in front of me, because the lighting there was not great, not predictable at all, so I had to use a little bit of artificial lighting. I don't want to do that here. I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible. Just natural light, if I'm able to, and if you enjoy it. Natural sound, so no microphone. It might be a little bit amateur, it might feel a little bit makeshift, but that's how I like it. I desperately want to avoid any sort of YouTuber experience. You understand? There's enough of that. You can go out there and find it any way you look. I want this to be as authentic and natural as possible. That does not mean that I won't be bringing you the drama, because I absolutely will be. That is still an innate part of my own personality. So you will be seeing that, very possibly in the next broadcast. She will be coming out, River the Drama Queen, of course, so don't think that that's going anywhere at all. It's not. I'm also going to need some new cushions to go on this lovely sofa, aren't I? This won't do. This is what I used to prop myself up with behind me on the purple throne, but it's had its time and was never actually soft or comfortable, I've got to tell you. But it matched one of my rugs, which is why I bought it. I think it's one of those Turkish kilim affairs, possibly made out of kilim rugs. Anyway, I like the design, but it's not comfortable, so I've got to find some nice, comfy new old cushions. That's how I want, maybe some nice gold ones. I'm going to have a little shop around and go to a few antiques fairs and markets over the next few weeks, so we'll see what I can rustle up. Of course, I'll be bringing back to you Tip Jar Corner as much as I possibly can, because I enjoy showing off all the trinkets and the bits and bobs, so we'll continue with that. It has been quite refreshing, I must admit to you, quite refreshing and quite the tonic, not to think about any member of the royal family or the anti-royals, you know who, for several months. It's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful break. It has. That doesn't mean I'm not excited to get back into it, because I am. But it's been nice to have a break from that and come back refreshed. You know, sometimes I think it's good and healthy to have this sort of a fresh start, and also to challenge me in a new environment creatively, to see how we move forward and see what I can come up with. But the whispers have continued to come in thick and fast. And so many old whispers that I received and shared with you have come to fruition, or come into evidence, very much so, very viscerally, recently. So we have much to discuss in the coming weeks. This sofa needs protecting, and so I always put this blanket on it. And old-time viewers might recognise this blanket, because I remember showing it to you when I first bought it, probably 3 years ago now, can't quite remember. And it is a really gorgeous mohair blanket, but I said to you, it feels too new. I didn't know what to do to get the newness out of it. And if I'm really honest with you, it prevented me from falling in love with it, because it didn't feel as cosy as some of my older mohair blankets. You gave me all kind of suggestions, putting it in the freezer so that it didn't shed so much. And some of these things had a little effect, but I just never loved it. Well, I brought it out of, it had sort of been stored and moved around and boxed and then taken out and thrown over things in various manners and used by some other people over time. And I hadn't noticed that it had totally come into its own. I can't sort of explain to you why over the screen, but it is the most gorgeous blanket now. It just needed that 3 years. For those of you who are wondering how long a new mohair blanket takes to break in, well, for me, it was probably underused in that time, because I didn't enjoy it. All of a sudden, it is the most divine mohair blanket. So cosy, so wonderful to sit on. You see, I need to probably hug a nice soft cushion while I'm here talking to you. I haven't got a dog, I'm afraid, to be able to cuddle while I'm broadcasting to you. I'd love to do that. I'd love to have one, but I'm not into the picking up of messes that dogs leave around. I'm also not into the barking, so I only want the cuddles. You know, I only want the cuddles and the good things that doggies bring. So it wouldn't really do for me to get one or two. Well, maybe one day, one day. But for now, I'll just have to hug the odd cushion, my dear, when I'm broadcasting to you. Not one quite so large as this, just one for my lap, dear. So I've got my blanket and my cushion, and I can keep a nice cup of hot chocolate next to me, can't I? Or a tonic. I've had quite a few tonics over the last few months, I've got to tell you. And I will admit to you, I've been smoking like a chimney. I really have. I've been smoking and also drinking a little bit. Turning into a right old lush, my dear. Not that I'm apologising for it or saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm probably not the healthiest point in my life at this moment in time, because of the last few months. I have also not been able to take the amount of exercise that I like to take. So I've got to buck my ideas up in that respect over the next few weeks. And I suppose that's what January's for, isn't it? But how have you been doing, my dear fruits? What's been going on in your world? Let me know in the comments anything that I need to know. And do be rest assured that it is my desire to still entertain you, to tickle you with humour, and to titillate and titivate. So although this is a rather casual vibe, low voltage broadcast, the forthcoming ones will not be quite so low key, low voltage. But as I say, dusk is falling here on this rather dark January evening, and rather off the cuff I decided to pop in and chat to you. Actually, I just began. I wanted to sort of practice, if you will, and check out the acoustics of this room. So I began recording on my desktop computer. That's actually what I'm looking at right now, my desktop Mac. What are they called? I'm not technical. iMacs. My desktop Mac anyway. And I realised after the first take that it was working out quite nicely. I rather liked the feel of it, so I thought, well, I'll continue and just post up a casual broadcast. It wasn't the sort of comeback that I had intended, but it feels right to just pop in and have a cosy chit chat with you, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go off and have my supper in a moment, and I very much appreciate you spending a little idle moment with me, for those of you who have done so, just to sort of say, hello, how are you? And let's get on with things, my dear. I'm going to get back to broadcasting. The river's going to keep flowing, and with regards to the keepsakes, thank you for those of you who have requested one, the many of you who have requested one, and do know that we are on it, even if you haven't heard from us yet, or if you have heard but are waiting for it to be posted. Just bear with us a little bit, have some patience. It's all very makeshift around here, my dear, makeshift and cobbled together, just like me. That is the way things are here at the River Broadcast. Thank you so much, so very much, and so sincerely to those of you who waited patiently and quietly for my return, and who returned to come and see me again. It is greatly, greatly appreciated, and I mean that most sincerely. Thank you for being here, and I hope you'll continue to enjoy the show. I'll see you in the next one. Godspeed.